Hi, and welcome to this episode of ADHD-Friendly. I'm Patty. I'm an ADHD and executive function coach, and I work with my clients to help them struggle less and thrive more. If you would like more information about working with me or my membership program, I invite you to check out ADHDfriendly.com, where you'll find more tips, tools, and information about how to go from where you are to where you want to be with a little bit more ease. At ADHD Friendly, ADDers get more things done. All right, so this week is episode 217, and I'm going to kick it off with a celebration related to what I shared last week. So if you checked out the last episode, you know it has to do with a surprise. And then my main topic is how ADHD impacts our motivation. And I've got my three favorite motivation tips I'm going to share. But first, as always, let's start with the celebration. I shared last week that my husband was celebrating his birthday, and my kids from North Carolina took it upon themselves to book a flight and arrive super early in the morning the day before Thanksgiving to celebrate his day with him. And I'm celebrating that. And I shared this last week that none of us said anything, but even up until the morning of, because when I recorded this last week, it was the day before. And the morning of, he didn't feel great. We were supposed to meet at a restaurant and they were just going to arrive at the restaurant, and he didn't feel up to going out to a restaurant. So I was like texting my kids. I'm like, okay, pivot. We're just going to be here. And so fortunately, they actually got here before he came downstairs. And when he came downstairs, he was completely blown away. I mean, it was a genuine shock. So it was just really gratifying to see how pleased he was and how good it felt for my kids to know that they pulled it off and how much he appreciated them being there. So it was just a lovely day. I made my German chocolate cake, which actually was a new recipe I'd never made before. It was delicious. It wasn't pretty. I always seem to do something when I'm decorating the cakes that, like slices off the side of it or something. It was a two-tiered cake, and it just looked terrible, but my gosh, was it delicious. So since it was just our family, I was like, you know what? Ignore how it looks. We're just going to enjoy it. And it was really good. So it ended up just being a great day, but it came about because we were able to be flexible and roll with it, which isn't easy for us when we have ADHD brain wiring. So I just wanted to really highlight that even with a lot of pressure and a lot of anticipation, we were still able to navigate the changes and plans and came up with a really simple plan where we turned on Bob's Burgers, which is one of his favorite shows. And we were just watching it when he came into the family room, and he was like, what? Because he knows I don't love that show. I mean, it's funny, but I would never turn it on. And he came in, and all of our four kids were just sitting there, and they were like, happy birthday, Dad. And he was just so pleased. So genuinely surprised and pleased. So that's my celebration. So now for what I purchased this week. I purchased things for my Secret Santa person and some stocking stuffers. So I'm almost done. I just have to get pickle gifts and then a few little things. But I would say 80% done, which feels really good. And the thing that I purchased that wasn't on my list and wasn't a need per se, it was definitely a want, was some new pajamas, because last year I splurged and got myself LL Bean pajamas because they come in tall and I'm tall. So when I buy just regular pajamas, they always end up being too short for me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get these. And I got a pair for my daughter as well. Well, she doesn't love pajama sets. So she liked the pants, but she gave me the top. So I had two pairs of the top and one pair of the pants. And all I have remaining when I swapped out winter and summer clothes this year was one shirt. So I was missing the complete other set. I've looked everywhere. The only thing I can figure is that it ended up in a donation bag, which I can't even, I don't even know how I've done that, but they're not here. And I didn't take them anywhere and leave them anywhere because they're warm flannel PJs. There was nowhere I would have gone and taken them where I needed something that warm in the past year. So I'm just really disappointed. So they were on sale for the Black Friday, Cyber Monday holiday. So I bought another set while they were on sale. So they're $65, and I'm not sorry. Even a few days later, I'm really happy to have more pajamas coming because they were so cozy and so snuggly and the perfect length. Even after multiple washes, they weren't, they were just so perfectly long. So that was what I purchased this week. One unexpected thing, but I did feel good that it was on sale, which LL Bean doesn't do a lot of sale things. So it was 15% off. So I jumped on it. All right, now for my tip for this week. And I am continuing to share my ADHD-friendly membership, particularly because so many of us struggle with planning, and I've decided to make that the focus of 2026. So everything inside the membership is included, including this new program I'm rolling out in January. So join now. You have access to all of the live things going on. You have access to all of the on-demand courses, on-demand PDF tools, recorded webinars, everything in there. We don't have a ton of live recording or live events because of this month being holidays, but we do have the entire winter, spring, summer semesters of ADHD-U, my year-long course that's wrapping up this month with the fall semester. So you still have access to all of that plus this semester, and can finish up this semester if you want to join now. Included in the membership are all of those things, plus the new program all about planning, rolling out in January. So I do want to remind you, if you're looking for something that has multiple live events every day or has something every single day of the week, that's not me. I run this myself. I create the content, I lead the content, and in my experience, it doesn't work for us. It sounds sparkly to have all of this stuff, but we really struggle to keep up with it. So everything at ADHD-Friendly is designed to be ADHD-friendly. So if you're looking for that, I encourage you, go find a program that will meet that need for you. And if that ends up not working, come on back to ADHD-Friendly, where typically we meet once a week, occasionally twice a week. Always on Wednesdays, always at 12 Eastern. If that time would not work for you, there are the slides of the meetings, there are recordings of the webinars, all of the materials that are covered are added to the membership portal. So you'll have access to what was covered if you can't make the live event. But I really focus on making what I offer doable and sustainable so that I'm not creating more frustration for you. So check us out. Lock in your membership fee when you join. It's only $95 a month, or if you join for the year, it's $950 and you get 2 months for free. You can cancel anytime because it wouldn't be ADHD friendly if you weren't able to do that. It's super easy to join, super easy to quit. I hope you won't, but I want you to get what you need in the way that you need it. So I'm always going to encourage you to do what's best for you. All right, that's it for that. Now for my main topic: how ADHD impacts our motivation. So a lot of us have great, I would say one of my favorite quotes from long before I knew I had ADHD was, "The smallest of deeds supersedes the greatest of intentions." And that's been credited to a number of people, but I always knew I would think about a lot of things. I would plan a lot of things in my head, but I really struggled with the doing part. So there's a number of reasons for that when we have ADHD. And the one that I always come back to is that our brains are understimulated when we have ADHD. And that difference in stimulation makes it harder to start things that are boring. Absolutely. We will almost universally have trouble getting started on something that's boring. But also, if it's not clear, if it's like, I'm not quite sure what they wanted here, I don't know what they're asking for, we will often not even ask for clarification or help. We'll just kind of struggle on our own and hope some magical way we'll figure it out. We struggle to start when something's overwhelming, or if something doesn't feel rewarding, or if we build in a reward, if the reward's too far away. When I work with parents, a lot of times we have to talk about like when they're talking about grades at the end of the semester or the end of the year or the end of the marking period. I'm like, that is way like too far for our now, not now brain. So building in rewards that work for us that are near enough to what we're trying to do that we can actually use it to incentivize what we're trying to do. So sometimes it's rewarding the start. And I've talked about that in a recent episode as well. So to get our brain activated, we need interest, we need urgency, novelty, connection, competition. We need things to fire up our brain. And when you think about just trying to push yourself to do it, I think of that as, just trying to power through with willpower. It's like taking a perfectly running, like a perfectly running car, brand new, but it has no gas. And because of that, you have to push it wherever you want to go. It's just not going to happen. Like we just can't do it. I push it a foot or two and then we're like, forget this. So that's how it can feel, even when we want to begin. So I have a lot of clients that will tell me, like, I sat there and tried to start it for hours and we'll exhaust ourselves trying to start. So the perfectionism, the fear of not getting it right, like I wasn't quite sure what they were asking for. So that will get in the way and we'll just be immobilized by it. Or maybe we're afraid of somebody judging what we do. There's lots of reasons that come into play here with our executive functions, but there are some things that we can do to make it easier. So I'm going to share what we can do with ADHD brains to get quick ways in. These are my 3 quick ADHD-friendly motivation hacks. The first is what I call create a zero entry point. So if you think about, if you've ever had the experience of standing on a dock or at the end of on the side of a pool where the water is deeper, then like you're going to jump and you're going to go underwater. So it's, like the deep end of the pool and the water is cold. Like you put your toe and you're like, oh my gosh. And you just know that feeling is going to be so uncomfortable for the first few seconds. So we'll just sit there trying to talk ourselves into it, walking around, trying to, convince ourselves that we can do it. I like to flip that and look for a way to turn that deep end into a zero or beach entry pool where you just have to put a toe in. You can just walk one, part of your foot in and get used to it before you take another step. So if what you're trying to do feels like that feeling that you have of trying to jump in the deep end of a cold pool, make it zero entry. So pick the smallest possible action. So I always want to share some concrete examples here. So if you're trying to do 30 minutes of yoga, for example, the smallest possible action might be just putting the yoga mat down and sitting on it. Once we do the thing that starts us, we can often keep going. So look for the smallest way in that you don't have resistance for. If you're trying to go for a walk, maybe you just put your shoes on. Maybe walking around with your shoes on is the thing that lowers the resistance where you're like, oh, I already have my shoes on. I might as well just go, right? But if you think about, oh, I've got to get socks, I've got to get shoes. What's the weather? We'll talk ourselves out of starting. Instead of trying to bake dozens of cookies for a cookie swap, maybe it's just putting all of the ingredients on the counter and allowing yourself to stop there and notice, does it make it feel any different? I mean, you can always put them away, but often once we do one thing, we can do the next thing, and it creates this momentum that we can keep building on. I had this happen this past, we had the Thanksgiving holiday, and I know this is coming out in a couple of weeks after that, but I'm recording this the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. And anytime I am away from my office for a few days, I find it really hard to come back. I don't even know what it is that I'm avoiding because I know I've planned what I'm going to do. I just resist coming in to my office to do the things because I know I'm going to be asking my brain to do some heavy lifting and focusing when it's resisting it because I haven't done it for a few days. And so instead of coming in knowing I have to do the monthly planning because it was the beginning of December, I have to do the weekly planning, I have to do the daily planning, I had to plan a podcast episode, and I had to plan and create slides for 2 workshops. Thinking of all that was overwhelming to me. So I just dialed it down to that zero beach entry level. And I just asked myself to sit at my desk. That was it. But I know if I sit at my desk, everything that I planned to do is ready to go on top of my desk. So once I'm there, I will do it. But I had to lower that ask, lower the expectation to the simplest, easiest thing that I could do first, and just notice how that works to keep going. So that's my first tip, create a zero entry point to begin. My second favorite hack is to build in a reward. I am very reward incentivized. And if you think that you're not, I invite you to think about anything that you do for something else, whether it's going to work to get paid. That is a reward. We don't often go to work if we're not getting paid in return. So it might just be looking for, what do rewards look like for you? And maybe it's just pairing something boring with something interesting. So matching up, like I always think of like emptying the dishwasher, folding laundry. I cannot do those things without getting on a phone and talking to somebody or listening to a podcast, listening to music. I have to pair it with something interesting. Maybe it's for me, like coming into my office, I might look forward to picking out a new color of a pen that is rewarding to me. I get to pick a pen, or I'm going to have coffee once I start, right? So pair something that you want to do that's rewarding with something that is boring. So just look for a way to build in a reward. It doesn't matter if it's a traditional reward, if it feels rewarding to you and it's possible for you to build it in, that might be a place just to start and notice how it works for you. Remember, for a lot of us, the reward is being done. So maybe you just write it down and you check it off, and that's your reward. It's still anything that kind of gives you that sense of satisfaction. It's giving you that boost of dopamine because it's activating your reward center. So it's really important to look for these things because remember, our brains are understimulated, and anything that increases our dopamine is going to help you to keep that momentum rolling. And then my third tip is to make the task more concrete. You'll notice in a couple of my examples, I talked about how much I was thinking about what I needed to do. It's the getting into action that really helps. And often making it concrete is the thing that can really make a difference. So just like what I just said, making a list of things, writing down the actual steps to what you're trying to do, whether it's on paper, on a whiteboard, get it out of your head and into something that you can see. Or just like the baking or cooking something, get the ingredients out, like do something physical, concrete to make the task something more tangible wherever possible. And if you're like a lot of people with ADHD and you don't like your, what I call ADHD font, your handwriting, it feels tedious to write things down, or it takes effort to read what you wrote. If typing is more your thing, type it into a list, print it out. If you have a printer, it still works. I have a college student that will enter the list on her iPad and it's touchscreen. So she will click things when she finishes them to check them off and cross them off. If you can get it external, it's ideal. But if that is what you're able to do and it works for you, just pay attention to how it works, but make it concrete is really the tip. So remember, we can do anything if we do it our way. Look for the zero entry point so that it's allowing you to have that beach entry where you can just walk towards something. I call it making it stupid small. Build in a reward wherever you can and make it more concrete. Do those things, notice what works for you, and see if you can hack into ways to get started a little bit more easily so that you're boosting your motivation. All right, now finally for this week's book of the week. Oh my gosh, you guys, this was so good. Sometimes I think it's like you might be like, oh my gosh, this is what she likes. It is. So I read Ozzy Osbourne's last book named Last Rites. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this book. I've never read any of Ozzy's books. I do like a number of his songs, an enormous amount. I would have loved to have seen him in concert before he passed away. I was not able to, but reading his book was so insightful, so interesting. I saw sides of him that I had no idea what kind of a person he really was. And I remember when I was a teenager and he was really, my brother just like had all of his albums and I wouldn't even touch his albums. They scared me because I just thought he was evil. And it was really, like that act that a lot of performers put on. And it was just a really sweet story. And I do, if you have any interest in reading about someone's life from their words, it's a little bit of his childhood, just like it doesn't like start from the day he's born kind of thing, but he does give a little background in his childhood, but it really walks through his experiences from high school, starting up with the band, the struggles he had in school, and his time with Black Sabbath, and then on his own, all the way through the Osbourne show I think that was on MTV, if I'm not mistaken, in the early 2000s, up till his last concert on July 5th of this year. And so literally the last chapter, he describes that concert. And now, mind you, he died 3 weeks after the concert. So this book goes right up until the very end of his life. And I had to go back and like look up different things that he referenced and watch them again. And it had such different meaning to understand what he was thinking at the time, that different things were happening during the performance, and to go back and watch it was just really very moving. So I do highly recommend that. And I have a quote that I'm sharing for my final thing for this week's episode. And this is from Ozzy. And he said, "I am terribly dyslexic and have ADHD. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't remember F all." I'm going to say the word. If I had done normal, sensible things, I wouldn't be Ozzy. And this just spoke to me, because those of us with ADHD, we need to be ourselves. We need to find our own way. I think he was a great example of somebody that was himself and did things his way and learned how to make an amazing life for himself doing that. So that's it for this episode. I hope you have something that you've heard, that you've learned, that you can take with you. If you want more support than can be offered in this podcast, YouTube channel, again, just check out my website, ADHD-Friendly.com, or check out my membership directly at ADHD-Friendly.m as in Michael, N as in Nancy.co. That's it. No M at the end. That's it for now. Until next time, tally ho.